What is the best fighting game?
Marvel vs. Capcom 3, free.
I'm gonna have to say X-Men vs. Street Fighter.
I mean, Marvel 3 always comes to my head first.
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2, baby.
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Ready?
Hey there, true believers, it's me, Milk Tea, and today we're going to be taking a look at the oh-so-beloved tag team fighting game series, Marvel vs. Capcom, or more specifically, Marvel vs. Capcom 4, a game which does not exist yet. With the release last year of the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, the love for MVC has gone from dormant to volcanic, sparking increasing speculation about the future of Marvel vs. Capcom and the possibility for a new entry in the series. Now, because I'm annoying, I had to make this video before any announcements were made about Marvel vs. Capcom 4, to flex when my roster ends up being real. As always, before we start, we have to set a few ground rules first. The largest MVC roster in history was MVC2, with a total of 56 characters, which actually is quite a lot. However, most of those character sprites and movesets were completely ripped from other games that came before MVC2, and naturally, any new MVC game would definitely not have this luxury. So I'm going to be a little realistic and say that we'll make a roster of 48 characters instead of 56. With that 48, we'll break up each section into groups of 6 characters, each with a focused theme. Sort of like how in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, every column had a loose grouping of characters that went together. Outside of the limit of 48 and the theme groups of 6, I couldn't come up with anything else important, so that's enough yapping, let's get to it. One of the biggest criticisms of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, the most recent MVC game which ended up fucking bombing, was that it openly pandered to the aesthetics of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The majority of characters on the Marvel side of MVCI were Avengers, and there was not even a single mutant to be found. And if you know anything about Marvel vs. Capcom, you would know that the first game in the series was actually called X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and in honor of that, our first 2 roster groups are going to be X-Men for the Marvel side and Street Fighter for the Capcom side. So let's talk about X-Men. This is probably one of the hardest groups to pick for in this list because MVC historically has a lot of playable X-Men characters, and we only get to choose 6 for this section. I feel like the 4 undisputed X-GOATs that you need in MVC are Wolverine, Magneto, Storm, and Sentinel. Outside of MVCI, all these guys have not missed a single Marvel vs. Capcom game, and they always usually end up being top tier, at least. For the last 2 X-Men, I'm gonna slot in Juggernaut and the long-forgotten Cyclops. I don't know how we're 2 major entries deep since MVC2, and we've somehow completely deserted the guy who used to be the main representative for the Marvel side of Marvel vs. Capcom. For the designs, I just need to be able to see Cyclops' hair in his main costume. Whenever they give him the full cowl, bro just looks like a thumb, and that shit to me is corny. For the Street Fighter characters, I wanted to represent both the games and a multitude of playstyles. So for the first 3 characters, I slotted the 3 most recognizable SF characters, Ryu, Chun-Li, and Zangief. Also, in this game I don't want them to be older like they are in Street Fighter 6. They're coming back to their regular age and designs. I'd even be cool if they went with the younger Ryu from the Alpha series. For the next 3, I wanted to represent the rest of the Street Fighter games. The first 3 all come from SF2, so naturally the next character would be from SF3. And I think the best pick here would be Elena. I think normally I would pick Ibuki here, but Elena is the newest character in Street Fighter 6, so it'd be good to slot her in here. From SF4, there are a lot of options, but you'd be dumb to pick anyone but Juri. She's easily the most iconic character from SF4, and she's probably among one of the most popular new age Street Fighter characters overall. By now you might have realized that despite there being 2 Street Fighter games left, we only have 1 slot, so naturally I'm going to take this opportunity to dunk on Street Fighter 5, and pick Kimberly from Street Fighter 6. I think out of the new characters from SF6, Kimberly's moveset fits MVC the most, and she's also super cool. Yeah, Jarvis, pull up the Avengers 1 poster.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, let's add this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and Miss Marvel. Huh? If you didn't guess yet, this group is our Avengers group. Everyone here is kinda irreplaceable, and it wouldn't make sense to leave out any of them in the roster, except for Black Widow. Mostly because I think she's lame and Ms. Marvel is better.
Nice.
And the reason why I'm picking Ms. Marvel is because otherwise I'd feel obligated to put Reed Richards or Mr. Fantastic into this roster, but I don't want to do that. Mostly because I think he's lame and Ms. Marvel is better.
Nice.
The MCU is to Marvel what fighting games are to Capcom. The next group of 6 all hail from Capcom fighting games. My first 3 slots are Morrigan, QB, and Donovan from the Darkstalkers series. Morrigan is kind of like the poster girl for MVC, so she has to be in the game. And I picked QB and Donovan because they're 2 of the coolest and most popular Darkstalkers characters that we have yet to see in Marvel vs. Capcom. Next up, I'm picking Leo from Red Earth. This dude is fucking sick, and I'm legit surprised that he's not appeared in a versus game since Capcom Fighting Evolution. I also think his uniqueness appeals to that wildness of MVC. After Leo, I'm gonna pick Hayato. Plasma Sword is gonna be in that new Capcom Fighting collection, so it would make a lot of sense. Also, he's probably one of the coldest character designs in MVC 2. His sword combos flow so well visually, and we desperately need that kind of visual sauce in MVC 4. The last one in this section I'd add is Ruby Heart, a character that actually originates from Marvel vs. Capcom, not some other Capcom game like everyone else. There are actually 2 others that could have taken this spot, Amingo and Sun, also from MVC 2, but Ruby Heart undoubtedly has the most star power out of the 3 here, and that's why I'm gonna pick her. Okay, just at the halfway point here, I'm sure there are a lot of characters that you're wondering why they're not here. These next sections, both for Marvel and Capcom, are going to satisfy the majority of the remaining popular characters missing. We'll call them stan picks. Characters so popular with so many stans, it would make no sense not to add them to the roster. Marvel stan picks, I'll just list all 6 right now. Spider-Man, Venom, Deadpool, Doctor Doom, Black Panther, and Moon Knight. Arguably the least popular pick here would be Moon Knight, but with the rise of Marvel rivals, Moon Knight has been rapidly growing in popularity, or possibly infamy for people who hate other people in Marvel rivals that can't aim. I think he's among like the top 5 or top 6 most played characters in the game, so it makes sense to include him. The rest of the 6 stan picks are kinda obvious. Notes that I have for this group: I want Spider-Man's ult to be his symbiote suit, and Venom has to be classic Marvel vs. Capcom blue. Anything else would be sacrilegious. Here we go, Capcom stan picks. We've got Dante, Mega Man, Zero, Monster Hunter, Phoenix Wright, and for the first time ever in MVC, Leon Kennedy. Zero, Dante, and Phoenix, those seem pretty straightforward to me. Mega Man I picked over X because I kind of dislike how similar X is to Zero. It feels like you're playing the same character when you pick them. And I like the idea that MVC represents a larger variety of games and character aesthetics. Monster Hunter though, I want to have a moveset that uses even more weapons from the games than they do in Marvel Infinite. Maybe it's possible that you could have a command that swaps your weapon that you do normals with to a different one, like swapping from Greatsword to Longsword, or from Dual Blades to Hammer. And then Leon, I feel like this guy has been done so dirty by MVC. How the fuck has Chris Redfield been picked like every single time over Leon? It actually blows my mind, especially considering how much cooler Leon is than Chris. Like, just straight up. Up until now, I was being nice and giving the game what it needs to be successful, but it's finally time to speak the real truth. These last 12 characters are ones that I personally handpicked to put into MVC4. No more pandering, just straight sauce. First up, I'm gonna pick She-Hulk. She-Hulk is undoubtedly one of my favorite femme Marvel characters, and she was actually already in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I always thought that she had a really unique fighting style that resembled something like a mix between Japanese women's pro wrestling and track and field. And it makes her a really big standout, especially when compared to a lot of the other women in the roster. After that, we gotta do Daredevil. Daredevil is one of the slept-on OGs of Marvel. I think he gets overshadowed a lot because there's so many popular characters that have a similar vibe or are also from New York, people like Batman and Spider-Man. But guys, I'm telling you, Daredevil is one of the sauciest dudes out there. He's a martial arts master, so he could play very similar to someone like Iron Fist. But he has the versatility of using his billy clubs as a club, as a nunchuck, or as projectile. He has way too much potential to not have been in an MVC game yet. Next is a pick that I was going to throw in the popular section, but I decided to put it here instead. Magic. She's a character that's actually been around since the 70s, but really started gaining popularity during Bendis' Uncanny X-Men run in the mid-2010s. And then also she was in that New Mutants movie, and then she got put into Marvel Rivals. She's become one of the most popular characters as of late. But yeah, I think she has a lot of cool stuff that could go into MVC4. She'd be one of the few greatsword characters alongside Monster Hunter, and she'd be prime for an install super, which is actually pretty rare to get in MVC unless you're playing a Devil May Cry character. Her character design is just way too fucking cool to leave out of MVC. Earlier I said that I wouldn't want to put Reed Richards into MVC4, and that's still true, but the game does need a Fantastic Four member that's not Super Skrull just masquerading as all of the Fantastic Four in one character. My pick from the Fantastic Four would definitely have to be The Thing. He just has such a cool ass silhouette, and I love how unique his color scheme is compared to almost every other Marvel character. I know we already have Hulk and Juggernaut, but I'm sure that we could figure out a way to make him different enough, and also, I don't care, fuck you, it's my list. The next two I can reveal together because they're both from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Blackheart and Spiral. I think Blackheart is actually one of the more unique characters we've seen in Marvel vs. Capcom. You'd never guess looking at him, but the guy actually is a keep away character that summons demons. And normally I'm not a fan of this type of playstyle, but look at this guy. Just straight saucy. Spiral is the other pick, and she's mostly here because I think she's extremely slept on. Her character design in Marvel 2 is one of my favorites in all of fighting games. She doesn't get a lot of love in the comics, but I would really love to see her return in MVC4, pretty much exclusively because of her sick-ass character design. Okay, so we swapped Leon Kennedy for Chris Redfield. Of course, that must mean that if we're swapping out Jill Valentine, we need to tap in Ada Wong. She has absolutely way too much swag for her to just be left on the Capcom shelf. She does martial arts, she has a wide array of guns that she can use, or at least whatever Leon doesn't use, and I could see her doing something similar to Jill in MVC2 when she summons the zombies. Instead, Ada could summon like a Mr. X as one of her supers. Next, another slept-on Capcom character that I don't understand why he hasn't been in Marvel vs. Capcom yet, Samanosuke from Onimusha. For those of you that don't know, Onimusha was a series Capcom did back in the PS2 era. It's basically Resident Evil but swapping agents for samurai and zombies for yokai. It's a really cool ass game and one that needs more love. Samanosuke has a lot of possibilities for unique moves with his big roster of magic weapons, and maybe they could do something interesting with the weapon leveling system as well. In the game, when you kill monsters, you collect their souls and you can level up the weapons. Okay, next to no one is going to know this next character, but I'm gonna slot in Ryu from Breath of Fire next. Capcom's known for a lot of things, fighting games, action games, horror games, but almost never JRPGs, and that's because they've only ever had one JRPG series, and that was Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire is similar to Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy in that it's an anthology JRPG series. Each game is set in a similar setting, but with a new story and a main cast of characters. The playable character, however, is always a boy named Ryu who can shapeshift into various dragons. And out of all the games in the series, I would argue that Breath of Fire 3 is the most beloved game. And Ryu from Breath of Fire 3 is also the most beloved version of Ryu. So yeah, even though we already have a Ryu, let's add one more. Next, we have the only returning MVC character in this group, Tron Bonne from Mega Man Legends. Outside of Marvel Infinite, she's been a very popular mainstay in the Marvel vs. Capcom series, and also one of my favorites to play. She has some really satisfying combos, and she's almost always a good assist character. Plus, adding more mechs to the game is never a bad thing, for the sauce of course. In fact, if we're talking about sauce, I cannot forget the king of sauce, Asura from Asura's Wrath. It would make absolutely zero sense for Capcom to make another MVC without adding this insane ass character to the game. The game that he comes from, the entire thing, is pretty much just based around visual splendor and aura farming. Like, look at this shit, man. For my very last character, I wanted to pick something a little bit experimental. Capcom's newest original IP was Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. released just last year. It's a little bit complicated of a game, but essentially you play as a swordsman named So, who is the guardian of Maiden Yoshiro, and you're assisting Maiden Yoshiro in her pilgrimage up a mountain to get rid of its demonic corruption. Part of the gameplay involves managing and commanding villagers on the mountain to help you as you ascend it. I think it'd be super cool if So was a character that played like Captain Ginyu from Dragon Ball FighterZ, and instead of summoning members of the Ginyu force with your moves, you'd be summoning various villager groups from the game as well as Maiden Yoshiro. Well, that's the final roster. Of course, we added a ton of characters here, but unfortunately, there's still a lot we had to leave out. But that's the reality of making a fighting game roster. You can't just put in every character you think of. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello? Yeah. Yeah, no, I just finished it. You want me to do what? Okay. How many should I add? Alright guys, the president of Capcom just called me and he said that I need to add 2 DLC packs so we can juice as much money that we can get out of this game. We're going to be adding 6 characters in each pack, 3 of them being Marvel and 3 of them being Capcom. For DLC pack 1, think of this pack as a second round of stand picks. We're trying to pick some of the really popular characters here to bank on the FOMO purchases. To shake things up a bit, let's start with Capcom. First, we're going to go with the character from a newly announced sequel to a cult classic game, Amaterasu from Okami. This character was actually present previously in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but this time around, I want to change up her moveset just a little bit to give a sneak peek into her abilities from the new game. I have no idea what that could be, but it would be a very good addition to the roster. Next, we're going to go with Felicia from Darkstalkers. Now, I know Felicia specifically isn't very popular, and this is our 4th Darkstalkers character, but she's more of a placeholder here because this DLC is going to coincide with the announcement of Darkstalkers 4. Of course, Darkstalkers 4 doesn't actually exist, and it probably never will, but in my world, it does. And this shit would be super hype. I mean, think about it. The game comes out, and then right after it comes out, the main character is in MVC4. For our last Capcom character in DLC Pack 1, we have Strider Hiryu. He's been in these games since MVC1, and normally I'd put him in the base roster, but you guessed it, Strider's release will also coincide with the new Strider game. This one is a lot less experimental of a guess than Darkstalkers 4. Strider got his most recent game back in 2014 to a pretty positive reception, and Capcom said that recently they've been looking to reignite some of their less focused on series. I think Strider usually being an inexpensive game to produce would be a good pick. Okay, now on to the Marvel side of DLC Pack 1. First up, we have the super popular Miles Morales. And if you haven't caught on yet, yes, this should coincide with the release of Insomniac's Spider-Man 3, which seems to have Miles Morales slated as the main character. I think even though we already have Peter Parker as Spider-Man in the roster, Miles Morales has a different enough moveset to differentiate him from Peter. He has his electric attacks and his invisibility, so maybe you could play something like Reptile from Mortal Kombat. I have no idea. After Miles, we're gonna add Psylocke. For this one, I don't have anything to promote. I really just wanted to have the famous MSP team playable again in an MVC game. Plus, Psylocke has been extremely popular in Marvel Rivals, so I think adding her here would be beneficial for the game. Last up, we have the GOAT of the Marvel Underworld, Blade. Now, I'm mostly adding this character in because my wife loves Blade, but it also makes a lot of sense with most of the other picks in this DLC pack. We know that Marvel's working on a standalone Blade game, and we even got a teaser for it. Blade has always been one of the more badass characters in the Marvel universe, so I doubt there'd be much of an issue getting people excited about him added to the game. Okay, so in DLC Pack 1, there wasn't really much of a theme. It was more focused on hype and marketing strategies, but for DLC Pack 2, I thought it'd be really cool to go all in with a villain theme. Maybe on top of adding the characters, we could add some cool boss raid type events to celebrate the end of the game's development. Anyways, for the first pick on the Capcom side, we have Gil from Street Fighter 3. I've always thought Gil had a really cool ass design, and unfortunately, he doesn't really get that much love from Capcom. He's only ever appeared in Street Fighter 3 as a boss character and Street Fighter 5 as a playable character. So let's give 5 big booms for Gil.
Boom! 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 Boom!
Next for Capcom, we have the king of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Virgil from Devil May Cry. If we're talking about sauce, Virgil is without a doubt up there. In terms of MVC, he is the ultimate anime sword guy. He's one of the best characters in Marvel 3, and it'd be so exciting to see him come back for MVC 4. The last Capcom character is one that's brand new to MVC. Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil 8. Now this is how you rake in some money at the end of the DLC. Nah, but really though, Lady D has a lot of potential to be a unique fighting game character. There's an archetype in fighting games known as big body characters. Think characters like Broly from DBFZ, Gygas from Tekken, Abigail from Street Fighter. Almost always these tend to be large hulking dudes with grappling abilities, and that's why I think Lady D would be a really cool foil to that classic big body archetype. She would still be large in scale with relatively slower buttons, but she has a lot more uniqueness, both in her silhouette and her abilities. Alright, Marvel DLC Pack 2, let's go. First, I want to do a little throwback, so I picked Apocalypse, a classic X-Men villain and the final boss of X-Men vs Street Fighter. Obviously, I don't think the giant boss version of him should be added, but something a lot similar to his standing sprite, which would be a very cool addition to MVC4. There are definitely some Mugen versions of him out there that we could look at for reference. Alright, now it's time to pander again. We gotta put in Thanos. I know by now people are probably sick of him, but he does have a long-standing history in MVC, and he's probably the most popular Marvel villain of all time now because of the MCU. If I had to pick a version of him, I would definitely favor Bubble Thanos from Marvel 2. Not because it's from Marvel 2, but because I feel like he has a lot more unique identity than the Thanos we see in Marvel Infinite, who is kind of just a big punchy guy. Okay, now for the very last character, and for real this time. This character is the current central villain of a lot of ongoing Marvel comics, and I shit on him twice in this video. Reed Richards, better known as the Maker. This version of Reed Richards is from the Ultimate Marvel Universe, and he essentially restructured the multiverse to fuck over every single person, and that's why he's called the Maker. And that's also why I think he'd make a great villain. It'd be especially cool if in the story mode of the game, Gil and Maker were working together to bring together all of the universes present in the game to fuck everyone over. I'm not sure what his moveset would be or what he would play like, probably something with a lot of zoning, but I mostly picked this guy because I think he'd be a cool final villain for the game. Alright, now that is the full roster, 60 whole characters. I hope you enjoyed my little thought experiment, and I'm sure you have some ideas on who you would like to add as well. So let me know in the comments who you would add to Marvel vs. Capcom 4. I've been working on this video since before Marvel ToeCon was announced, so it kind of threw a wrench in the process of making this video, but fuck it, we ball. Thanks so much for watching, and please check out my other videos if you enjoyed this one.